The Parks and Recreation Board meeting is called to order at 7:07 p.m. with a quorum present, represented by Barbara, Cindy, Serge, and Garrick, present here in the room, and joined by Sarah via Zoom. And also we have with us today Marcy, Lucas, Katrina, and James from the city staff. We are missing David Rogers today because we heard that he has lost his mother. His mother and dad are Ann and Troy Rogers, who are longtime Haslet residents, and we just want them to know that our sympathies and condolences are with them. The item number 2, items of community interest. The Haslet Library will host the Carter Blood Drive on July 15th, 2022 from 1 to 4 p.m. Discuss, consider, and act to approve the meeting minutes. That's 3A. So if everyone will look at those minutes. Yeah, the minutes.
This is Sarah, and I can motion to move to approve the minutes.
This is Cindy. I second.
All who agree say aye and show with your hand. All agree. Make sure I'm looking at the right one. Number 4, discuss, consider, and act regarding the financial statement. For A, is there anything we need to know about that, Katrina?
July vendor fees, $1,400 income for 4th of July, and then we had just a few expenses below that. $791 on local entertainment, paid for the licensing for our music and movies that we required to do. And then 4th of July expenses. That's it for July. For June. Does anybody have any questions?
Yep. Would someone make a motion?
This is Cindy. I make a motion to accept the financial report 4.4A.
This is Serge. I second it.
All right. Now, all who agree. All agree unanimously. Number 5, action items. 5A is discuss, consider, and act to make recommendation to City Council to allow the closure of Schoolhouse Road from 7 a.m. through noon on October 29th, 2022 for the Haslet Hustle and 1 Mile Fun Run.
It's just a formality to get it on the council.
This is Sarah, and I'd like to motion to request City Council's approval for closure of Schoolhouse Road, October 29th, from 7 to noon.
This is Barbara. I'll second it. All who agree? All agree. So that passes. 5B, discuss, consider, and act to make recommendation to City Council regarding the Park Board 2022-2023 budget worksheet. And so we'll be pulling that up now. Yes.
Barbara, the only 2 things that I saw on there were in regards to movie in the park, perhaps needing a few extra $100, maybe moving that from 1,000 to 1,200. And then the other one was that Wild Wild West or Wild West Fest we haven't been able to get a rodeo for 10 grand, and that's what's budgeted in the line item. So I don't know if we're able to make some adjustments on those two things.
Sarah, do you remember what the estimates were for Wild West Fest this year for the rodeo?
I thought they were like 14 or 18. I don't know. Does Katrina remember? I don't have my book with me that has all that written down. I'm sorry.
Katrina? Okay, all right, awesome. Thank you.
There's just a few things I wanted to point out to you all. And first of all, you do have corrected sheets in front of you this evening, particularly on Fund 15, which is your park improvement fund. But we just made a couple little tweaks to the summary page on your park board fund, Fund 4. And I'll start with the park board fund. So first of all, you have 3 years of actual information, and you can still see some of the actual that pandemic and related to pandemic, some of your events were abbreviated or canceled, and so that's not probably your normal, historical, what you'd want to look at. On 2022, fiscal year 2022, the projected year end, those are based on what I've just seen happen year to date, what I think we're going to end up. Basically, what I've changed on that was your park fund contributions. Those contributions are what goes on our water bills for the city of Haslet, and since we're getting more residents, we have more people contributing, and so I upped the expected on that and then raised the budget for next year for the revenue. That also affects your matching transfer down there at the bottom of the revenues from the general fund, so I adjusted that to match. You have, I think as was mentioned, the Wild West Fest did not occur, so we had budgeted $20,000 for that, so I reduced that down to 0. And I put it back at $20,000 next year. I'm not sure. I think there was some discussion as to whether that event was going to continue. So, but I just put it back to where it had been the last couple of years. So I didn't make a lot of changes to your revenue in this fund. And then on your expenditures, kind of have the same situation. $40,000 for Wild West Fest. Since you didn't have it, I reduced those expenditures and then upped it again for next year. And I think that was the only thing in your expenditures that I changed. Now, those were just the starting point. I usually put in your next year's proposed, pretty much what you had this year, assuming that you're going to have the same events at the same level of event. And if you change your mind on, what events you want to have or what level you're going to have them, obviously you can make recommendations to change those amounts. One thing I did want to point out that all of your park board funds are considered special revenue funds. So if you'll see in the column for the fiscal year 2023 budget, you start off with beginning available resources. So there is no pressure in this fund to spend what you budget, because if you don't spend it, it's just left in your balance. You don't lose it. So I just wanted to make that clear, and that's the little tweak we made on this summary page, is to show you your beginning balance and then your revenues, to show you that total resources available, because that's what you have available to actually budget expenditure-wise. With it being a special revenue fund, if you would happen to cut real close to what your projected ending balance is going to be, then we would be monitoring a little bit more closely during the year, because you can't spend more than you've actually brought in at any one time, and that's true for all of the park board funds. So any discussion you have on tweaking next year's budget based on events or events you want to add or don't want to have, you can have that discussion. On Your fund number 15, your City Parks Improvements Fund. The correction on this page was I forgot to update the projected year end, and if you noticed on your financial statement this month, you have about $245,000 already received for your park development fee, and that's because of all the development that's occurring. And so I wanted to make sure that that correction was in there. The tennis courts are in there at the amount that was approved by the council, and I know that the engineers are still looking at that project, and you know, there's an opportunity that that price may increase. I suppose there's the same opportunity it might decrease, but I would think that's highly doubtful. But at any rate, you do have this good bump in that fund coming from the development. However, I did reduce it back down to $50,000 again next year. If you also noticed on your monthly report, we only received $1,000 in the last month. So we are seeing kind of a pause coming from the developers. Our permits are down, and impact fees are down this month for the month of June, and so your park development fee was as well. So hopefully we still have a little bit of that boon going on, and we expect it to. We just think it's paused for a while because of the inflationary pressures in the market. I've also recorded since your last month the transfers in from the capital projects fund of the general fund and type B EDC for the amounts that they had committed to the tennis court project. And those are the basic changes on that. Once again, this fund, your balance stays in there. So if you identify a project that you would like to see occur in any of the parks, a capital project, there are some that are slated to come down the pipeline. I think some of those are the ones you had already been considering, some lighting in the park and an upper trail crossing and some of those things. So the city still has those in their capital improvement projects list as items identified, but if there was something that had not been discussed before that you know, you would possibly want to add to that list, then make that recommendation to the council. This shows you what's projected for you to work with. So I just ask if there's any questions on that. I just wanted to kind of review that with you. I know this board has different members from year to year, and so I don't know who's new and who's not, but just to give you a little background on those funds. And then your memorial fund, that's money that is left over from the donation from the Lions Club, and those funds are being used as they are available to fund improvements to the memorial in the park. And the only revenue that goes into there are a little bit of interest income, not much, and then any donations that you all receive. And so that there is money, I think about $1,100. I didn't bring those sheets with me, but available in that fund as well.
Okay, I do have one question. I know that since we did not, and I might not understand this correctly, since we didn't hold Wild West Fest, that was zeroed out. Last year, we used those funds for events that were canceled to help with the tennis courts. So if that budget should go over what's there now, could those funds assist with that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you can make that recommendation to the council if you wished.
Okay.
Do we need to make that a recommendation?
Well, you can if you would like. I would think with the money that's still available in the Park Improvements Fund that you might wait, and you know, it'll still be there and you could wait. And you can always make mid-year amendments and recommendations as well. But you've got, you know, I'm projecting to have an ending balance. If this is portrayed as if you were going to finish the tennis courts this year, which I think the timeline's probably not realistic. It'd probably move to next year, but you'd have an extra $500,000 in that fund, and that might be the best place to take it from rather than transferring from one to the other.
Okay.
But those funds would only be available until September, before the next budget takes effect, correct?
No, they will stay in your fund.
No, I'm talking about the Wild West Fest fund.
Well, for the current year, but you
Right.
won't lose anything. Does that make sense?
Right, 'cause
You
it'll
didn't
come
spend it,
back.
so it's in your balance,
Right.
and I've already
So I'd
taken
like-
it out, so it's
I'm
in
so
your
sorry, can I
balance.
ask for clarification on that? You're saying we're not going to lose anything, but in fact, we do lose it, because we're only getting 64,000 rolling over per year that comes into the general fund. If we don't use it, we don't get 84,000 next year, we still get the same 64. It shows right here in your budget line, so what do you mean we don't lose it?
What I mean that you don't lose it is if you'll look at the top of the page, your beginning balance, well, just you can kind of see if you don't have the revenue in the 2022, if you didn't have the 20,000 for Wild West Fest for the revenue side, and you didn't have the 40,000, then you basically don't have 20,000 of expenditures, and that will stay in your balance. Yes, the council transfers 62.4, but if you see, they transfer that every year, and it's not dependent on you spending that. That's their commitment to the park board every year is 62.4. So if you don't, like in this year, the beginning balance is 134,288. If you didn't spend anything on your expenditures, that balance would increase, and it would be in your beginning balance to start the new year with. So any of the funds that have already come into your fund, if you don't spend them, they're still there. Does that make sense?
Kinda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just by budgeting it does not mean that it's gone, because you have a special revenue fund, and that fund maintains its integrity. It doesn't transfer in and out, other than the general fund's making a transfer for you to use to fund your projects. But they will, regardless of what you spend this year, they're going to transfer that 62.4 again next year.
Correct, but I think what Sarah's trying to say, and what I agree with, is if we don't use the $20,000 for Wild West Fest this year, we will not have 40,000 in there in the budget next year. It won't just move over and be added to, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, the line item, see, basically what I've done is cancel the 20,000 this year, so you have less revenue,
Okay.
but I've canceled the 40 expenditures, so that increased your balance. You can see that
I see it.
the current budget, you would have only ended up with 129,000 at the end of the year,
Okay.
but because you've canceled that expenditure, you've actually ended up projected to have 155,664.
So that
So-
20,000 went into our beginning available resources.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Okay. Okay.
I
Yes.
think we finally got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Now, one thing I would like to mention to the board is that we have had discussions in the past that in the future, maybe not next year or the year after, but fairly soon, we're going to need to replace that other playground equipment. So keep that in mind while we're spending all our money.
Yes, you do want to identify projects as you see them, because the building boom is not going to last forever. We're landlocked by Fort Worth, and we only have a certain amount of growth we can have, and that's what we're experiencing right now.
So is the.
So I'd like to suggest that we allot that money somewhere else from the budget that we did not use on Wild West Fest. Because what we are agreeing on here is that although the money remains in the fund, if it's not budgeted for, we can't spend it. So we have to assign a value to that dollar. So if we don't tell that dollar where to go, it just sits in that fund. So if we then submit to council a request for $80,000 in Christmas in the park, they're going to come back and say no. And then we just have money sitting there that we can't use. I think it's more beneficial as a parks board to go ahead and assign that money or request that money to be assigned to a specific project before the fiscal year ends.
I have not amended your budget. This is just my projection for the year end. So the $40,000 is still budgeted for you to use through the end of this fiscal year. And then there's 40,000 budgeted for next year. So I've not amended your budget. I haven't cut anything. I'm just making a projection based on.
No, I understand what you're saying, but from our perspective, we didn't have Wild Fest. We won't have Wild Fest before the end of this year. So if we don't tell that money where to go instead, we essentially lose that money from next year's budget unless council agrees to amend the budget differently.
No.
So last year, we asked to have that money transferred so we could buy a tree. And council said, oh, sure, that would be great. And we applied that money towards the purchase of a Christmas tree. So I feel like the same thing needs to take place before the end of the year so that that money isn't lost, assuming that they do not approve our requested budget changes, because they have not historically approved everything we've asked for.
Sarah, do you agree that we have, let's see, we'll have several other meetings before the end of the budget year. Do you think we need to make that decision tonight? Or do we need to discuss it and maybe make the decision at our next meeting? Maybe we will have some estimates of the cost of the tennis courts by then as well, along with some other things that you've just mentioned, to know where best to use that money.
I'm going to defer that question to Katrina, who knows the schedules better than I do.
Right. The city's budget calendar, we're looking at having our budget workshops on August the 12th and 13th. That's a Friday and a Saturday.
Okay.
And the council would appreciate having your recommendations so that they could discuss those at those workshops. So you should be able to actually discuss the budget again and make your recommendation in August if you choose to.
We have a meeting on the 10th of August, so.
Yeah.
Yes. And then back to Sarah's question again, any time that you feel like you want to reallocate funds in your budget, you can request a budget amendment to council. And as I said, I haven't cut anything out of your budget. And so if you want to allocate the $40,000 to something else, just remember that you don't have the $20,000 revenue to cover something else, but you're certainly free at any time to make a recommendation to amend your budget. But if you don't anticipate having anything to spend the money on, then those funds are in your beginning balance next year.
All right.
So realistically, we've never actually had the 20,000 revenue. Wild West Fest isn't a revenue generating event historically. So I think last year we just did 20,000 and was the tree. Correct me if I'm wrong. So
Right.
yeah, we could consider it, Barbara, and request at the next meeting. But I think it's definitely something that we need to consider, because if we're going to make suggestions or requests to amend the budget, like movie in the park, it's still running at 1,000.
Right.
But we know if we don't get a sponsor, it costs us 1,200.
All right, Sarah,
And so,
what I'd like to
we just-
do then, I think, is let's go to the park board, the 04 fund, and just kind of go through and just tick it off if this is okay, this is okay, this is okay, and where we need to make changes. Okay? So
Perfect.
I'm in the packet for Park Board Fund 04 on the page that has the little boxes. The first account number is interest income. I'm guessing we're not going to make any changes to income because we don't have control of that, correct?
Right. I have made adjustments to the income as what I'm seeing coming in from the projections.
Okay, so let's see. So our first non-income is
That would be your local entertainment.
okay. Okay, so I've turned 3 sheets of paper in our packet. So we have the local entertainment. This is where the movie licensing is. So Sarah, this is where you were wanting to. I'm sorry? that's income on that page. So we're not adjusting what we're collecting. She's already done that.
So page 7, I believe, is where we start.
Now you have to go to, starting with 04781101000 local entertainment.
Yes, that's our first expense. Right.
It comes out of the out.
Right, okay. So, on our, local entertainment, we have, movie licensing, 200, MPLC, 150, broadcast music, 350, ASCAP, 350. Sarah, what were you thinking of that needed to be increased? Because you kind of handled booking
Nothing
that.
specifically on that line, unless Katrina thinks we spend more. I don't know what it costs for our movie licensing. I thought it was 400, but I could be wrong. Katrina knows that. I'm sorry.
For the movie, but we have to buy public, or what's it called, broadcast, separate licensing to have show a movie outside and to play music at Christmas, public music, public licensing for, right, but that is separate than the actual movie we get from Point Production. That's on the other line.
Well, the movie licensing for 200, does that need to be increased to 400?
No, because it takes that, or yeah.
I think it may have covered it in the past, Katrina, because originally we had budgeted more than one movie in the park, more than one. So when we moved to one, we used both event funds to cover one.
It's 2250, roughly around.
Quick question, so this is for one movie in a one budget?
Broadcast music or playing music.
Correct. Mhm.
Is that a yearly?
Yes. And then movie licensing is the actual movie. And MCPL and ASCAP are also to play something outside.
But that also covers Christmas in the park, the Easter egg hunt, right? That covers like 5 different events. Mm. We get the gist.
I'm just going to go back just to confirm that to the summary page. I'm going to tear that off so you can look at it. Down under expenditures for movie in the park, I see the 200, 650, 650, 1,000, and we expended 1,000. That's not local entertainment. That's going to be under movie in the park, correct? Well, I was just looking at this cover page. Oh, of the equipment. Okay. Okay, if this is equipment, then I kind of agree with Sarah that under this first account, where under local entertainment, it says movie licensing 200, and if we paid 400 this year, then we do need to increase that to 400 to make sure we have that covered for our movie rental.
Yes, but what you're not doing is paying the live bands or anything, so the fund as a total has been covering those expenses adequately.
Okay.
But, I mean, you guys can certainly recommend those if you want. We haven't gone over it, so.
How close have we gotten to it? Are we spending $2,000 on that?
Well, we've
Six,
only
seven,
spent,
eight, nine, 10, 11.
800.
That's 21.
Okay, I kind of see what you're saying now because everything is line item. Well, the first amount of 1,200, I
That's
guess,
all
is
the
where the
fees.
overages have come from.
Right, that was when
Okay.
we could pay a live band.
Okay,
But
We
Marcy,
can't
they're
get a live
not,
band for 1,200.
they're not bound to any of those. That's just an estimate.
Right.
That
Right.
total amount is what they have. So
okay,
You're not forced to only spend that amount. If it costs more, as long as it doesn't exceed that.
right.
Well,
That
so for
22.50.
example, we spent 800 so far, and yes, we're gonna spend another 4 or 450 on the
Mhm.
movie licensing for September, but that's about all we have projected to spend from that line.
Right. Right. And I think this first one was just, we needed to spend a little time on because Sarah had specifically, Sarah, are you okay with the fact that that should be able to cover it since we haven't?
Yeah, whatever, I deferring that specific one to Katrina, she knows those.
Okay. Thank you. All right, the next one, Christmas up in the park at 20,000, that has been working. Any comments, suggestions for that one?
I think we need to adjust for inflation.
I think we paid more for what we get this year than we have ever in the past. And I think we need to up this. Just ballpark, I'm thinking $5,000.
A quick question. We budgeted for 20,000 and last year we spent 15. Okay. Carry it over.
I'm sorry, I can't hear who's talking if you haven't hit the microphone, I'm so sorry.
I was just telling Serge that in the past, when we had funds extra, like you were talking about 20,000 for the tree, we've used the extra money to buy Christmas for the for that year, but the next year's budget. So I would like to see us move it up to 25,000.
Well, and also I believe that the reindeer was from a credit. So that was $2,000 or $3,000 that's not gonna be in there because it was a rollover from a cancellation.
That's correct.
Any other discussion?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
So to make a change, do we need to vote on that or we just decide?
Make a recommendation to council.
Yeah, I would just make your recommendations line by line,
Okay,
and then that's how we'll form the recommendation to the council. And you can make that recommendation after you get everything figured out,
Okay.
and just make one recommendation,
Right.
one motion.
all right, so we're going, if everyone agrees, we'll increase the Christmas in the Park to $25,000 for an increase of $5,000. Okay, the next item is the Easter egg hunt.
Katrina, what did we spend on eggs this year?
I believe we spent about 2,000 on the eggs, and we spent a total of $34.79. Look how close we got.
Well, and we've always increased it by 1,000 every year, which eggs are not expensive, but I want to make sure we have enough to do that, continue doing it.
Right.
And also, I think the DJ went up this year, so I'd like to see us move that at least to 4,000.
Well, you mentioned that we increased it by 1,000. So,
We increased the purchase of eggs
oh,
by
dollars.
for 1,000 more eggs.
Okay.
We've done it every year, so we know how many years we've done it.
Okay, so I think everyone's in agreement that we increase that to 4,000, which is an increase of $500. The next account is the movies in the park. This is the popcorn, the drinks and ice, the screen, and the equipment rental.
This is the line item I thought should increase to 1,200.
Okay. And what was the rental? What is the rental going to be this year?
$865, we've already paid for it.
Okay,
Yeah, it's at least gonna be 900, so yes, it would be hard to buy popcorn and other items out of this budget if we did not have our sponsor providing and we had In-N-Out providing. So we're probably not going to buy popcorn to have a sponsor and In-N-Out.
okay.
So we'll probably be fine this year, but if you guys wanna up it as a request for next year, you never know if we'll have In-N-Out or not.
Right, and you had mentioned that before, that In-N-Out may become more difficult to book. I
Right.
believe you said. All right, so I think we're in agreement that we will increase that to $1,200, which is an increase of $200. The next account is city signs and decorations, which includes Christmas decorations, flags, all event signs, sponsor banners, park survey costs, printing and mailing. It looks like this year we didn't spend,
Already spent $10,246,
Oh, we spent-
$7,000 of that was all decorations.
$15,000. Yeah, it looks like we spent it all, so we did buy we were able to buy quite a bit of the Christmas decorations. Do we need to increase that one, or do we think the 15,000 will be enough to continue to replacing in the Christmas decorations? What do y'all think?
It's hard to predict the condition of
Mhm.
the lights, but James, if you,
Yeah, James, what do you think? Are we gonna need a lot replaced this next year, or are we in better shape going into this next year?
I think it's time they don't have, not really.
Mm-hmm.
I think we might be okay for this year, Barbara.
I would say as far as the building lights and things like that, they're fine. But all the displays, most of those are kind of past their lifetime. Like they're, yeah. So we looked at before. So all the wire frames that have lights around them, the companies that sell those, they don't sell the replacement lights. They said that's all the money is the light itself. They're custom strands made. So the metal frames of all that are worthless. So we always thought you could just buy and rehab them.
Mhm.
Those are not. They're throwaway, and they give you a discount on repurchasing a similar one. So
Okay.
I do
And-
think, yeah, we had very few working this year. There was a very small amount. We'll have less next year. So you do need to replace the majority of those, and those kind of need to be on a reoccurring.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm not sure how it worked on the ones that were donated or by sponsors. Was there an agreement on how often? Like several people had sponsored Christmas lights,
No.
but there was no. How long did that sponsorship last, and how long is our requirement to keep
Those
those
were
going?
one-time.
Okay, because a lot of those are also no
Okay.
longer functional.
So if we purchase replacements, though, those are also disposable.
Yes, so all those companies, like you buy them, you get 3 or 4 years out of them, and then they're tossed and thrown away, and you do it again. It's a very expensive
Yeah.
thing, but the custom light strands is where all the money is, and that's they're very difficult too. So it's not like you can one goes bad. They're not even replaceable bulbs. The strings are made very specific, so one string might have 10 lights, but there's a resistor built into the string. So if the resistor goes bad, you lose all those. They all go out permanently. So it's you really need to be on a rotation of replacing them. I would think 4 to 5 years at a time. You'll get out of one display and then switch out. And
which we kind of have. We don't
True.
necessarily have a schedule, but we have
Right.
alternate
Right.
every place.
All right, we were working on the poles, and I mean, it makes sense, because you think if decorations are inside, they're gonna last longer when they're outside in the Texas heat.
Yeah, even the warranty on them has a how many days out that can be a year. I mean, you're never going to get a warranty, but they tell you up front, like on the hanging decorations, that you get a 5-year warranty with the understanding that they're only out for 20 calendar days a year. And I mean, you're really never going to be able to refund on that. But I mean, you're right. The more they stay out, the more they break down in the.
So do you feel like the 15,000, if we continue to order and replace a group of them each year, will be a sufficient plan? Will we be able to, over 3 years, with 15,000, well, all of that isn't for Christmas.
Correct.
And so let's just say it's 10,000 for Christmas, just to have a figure. Is ordering 10,000 and those outdoor Christmas decorations going to be enough over a 3-year period to replace all of them?
No, I don't. And it really depends on how you want to do that, because that displays grow, so you've been adding to them and not replacing the old ones. So if you say you're only going to support 10 displays every year, then maybe. But if we keep adding to it, really it's just that there's a point that they just end of life and you'll always be behind. So unless you're upping that every year,
Okay.
I don't think so.
Do we have a cost for those displays? A per display cost?
They all vary. Some were purchased from, can't remember the company.
I mean, the prices, 3 or 4 of those businesses gone out of state. Hard to even find someone that, and the company we did get them from told me they'd get back to me and let me know, and then they just showed up here. So I didn't even know for sure that they were on order.
Yeah, I'm not positive. I think we paid as much as $3,000 or $4,000 for some of them. Some of them were $800. They really varied, but
The
some
ones
were
that were
custom made.
completely custom, that you wanted a toothbrush and all that, they were more expensive. But I mean, on average, maybe $1,000 each piece for the medium size. But that's all gone up. I don't know now.
I mean, that's why I would say if we're gonna budget for it, if we want to replace them every 3 years,
And
whatever it
freight is a huge expense on
And
this
if-
stuff because it's so big.
And if this one, if they don't have to have a solid number, we can go and get a better idea of what the cost would be on another day. I mean, do they have to have a number for this tonight? Or?
Well, I mean, I think it's clear that we should increase it if our goal is to replace what we have. That we haven't bought any big ones. I don't think we bought any this last year.
No, but we spent $7,000 on.
On the poles.
Right.
That was our priority. So maybe we need to consider asking for an additional $5,000 here. And then, if we have that for the next year, then possibly it could be reduced the following year once we have a clearer, we can make a big investment next year, and then if we see we can do better with the money, then we can reduce that back down for the following year. That's my suggestion. What do y'all think?
May I throw this out there that we will need the volunteer hours. It's not just the purchasing.
Right.
They don't have the time to
Right.
set all that up. Keep that in mind.
What do you think?
I think we do need to increase it. I would also like to ask y'all to ballpark, because I know everything's already put up for the year, but it won't be long before we're getting it out again. If we could get some idea of what really needs to be gotten rid of, and then get an idea of what those things cost to replace. Some of them we're not going to replace, that same thing for another.
Yeah, I would say 50% of the displays that you have do not work.
Right.
So that's the best guess I would have, and it'll be less this year. There was a very large amount that were just, they're maybe, the display had like 60% of it working, but there's no way to, so if it's a gingerbread man missing half an arm, like it's gonna, I mean, you could still use that for it, but we're getting harder to see what they are. So.
Cindy, they gave us a report. I don't know if it was David that presented it or James. I don't remember who gave it to us, but there's a list, and I apologize, I don't have it here, that listed all of our different display items and which ones were working and which ones weren't working and how long we had them. And we need at least half of them. And the ones that were out last year, like he said, half weren't working, and so.
So are you agreeable?
I almost want to give them permission to toss the ones, or for us to go through, Cindy, and just toss the ones that aren't working.
Sarah, are you agreeable? Does $5,000 increase sound reasonable to you?
We can always ask.
I'd be okay.
Okay. So on the Christmas, city signs and decorations, we'll ask that to have an increase of $5,000 to $20,000. Okay, the next one is advertising. We spent all of that, or we will.
No, we've only spent $146.
Advertising. Well, I just see the year-end projection is that we'll spend all $1,000 on that summary page.
Well, we probably will.
Yeah.
We still have several events.
But, right, we have, but that, do you think that event amount is sufficient?
I mean, unless we want to buy a whole page in the magazine.
Was there any problem with the promotional giveaways and stuff? That we'd like to, that's for like the ones we gave out at Independence Day, correct?
Beach balls and stuff.
Say again, Sarah?
Beach balls.
Yeah, only we took those out of the event, 4th of July. We had the funds there.
I think that line item is probably fine.
I think so too. All right, the next one is equipment maintenance and repair to help cover costs for park-related items. What do y'all think?
That pays for like the replacement swings.
Well, so that was a question I had earlier. We have an R&M in our account that also covers that, so I don't know what this specifically. I think David's already said it was for things that were specific to the park board. So like ice chests, things like that.
Okay.
Maybe it was any kind of equipment that y'all had. That's what I understand this to be. Like the actual swings and that stuff is in our budget.
Okay. So that should be okay. The next one is Wild West Fest, where we have the $40,000. Is this where we have the fee for the rodeo? Yes.
And I don't think $10,500 would even get them to come over. I'm pretty sure that we were quoted at least 15 and maybe 17,000.
27.
27,000?
27,000 for rodeo?
Y'all don't remember that?
I know.
Yes.
27,000. Wow.
No.
So this is Sarah. I also don't mean to be a Debbie Downer, and I'm gonna ask Garrick's opinion on this. But I think this would be the time that we take out Wild West Fest, because I don't think that we've already requested, almost $11,000 in increases in other areas. And I think if we don't take something out, I don't know that the parks, the city council is going to be super excited about that. And I know I don't, like I said, I don't want to be the Debbie Downer. I'm going to leave it for Garrick as our longest standing member to give his opinion on whether we ask to keep that on the budget or remove it.
When was the last year we held Wild West Fest?
2019.
In the years I've been involved, every year we've had weather issues. It's a lot of money to have something
Blown
fall
up in the
apart.
storm. Well, that's going to happen with anything we
Right,
do, though, so.
right. But like a movie, you can move to a different day pretty easily. And a Easter egg hunt, you can move. But this is such a big event.
So at the 4th of July celebration, or whatever we call it,
Mhm.
as I was sitting under the pavilion taking it all in, I was thinking that would be neat, that event maybe to make it a little bit bigger, maybe have like live music. You know, it seemed like there was quite a few people there. I mean, I thought, you know, we got a stage. It seemed like it'd be an easier event to make bigger than it is a production to put on Wild West Fest that we haven't done. We struggle with.
Mhm.
So I was just, like I said, I was just kind of taking it in and thinking that maybe we could, if we drop the Wild West Fest, we can make that maybe
I
a
think
bigger
that's a
event.
great idea.
I agree.
And people really seem to enjoy being in the park and, you know, family-oriented
I mean,
things.
you know, whether that Nancefield, it seems like every year it's been very well attended. There's a lot of people. People don't mind sitting out, you know. So you know, even if you just had a band there that played from 7 to 9, or you know, I don't know what the hours are, but up to the fireworks, kick the fireworks off, and we're done.
And
like
and
normal.
in your opinion, the DJ's music isn't enough?
Well,
I'm just asking your opinion.
Actually, I know we told the DJ where to set up and everything. I didn't really hear the DJ at all. Even he wasn't that far behind us at the pavilion. Either needs more sound system, in my opinion.
Yeah, no,
I agree.
I asked you.
Yeah, I don't think he was an impact at all. Nothing against him,
Right.
but
Yeah, we didn't have them.
I don't think we didn't.
Well, and you know, it could be that we could spend a little money on actually having a stage available at one end of the basketball court where he could set up, or a band could set up, or where you would get more of a surround sound for the larger crowds.
Yeah, I agree.
So I like that idea, Garrick, a lot. I know that when we have had successful Wild West Fest, part of the draw was, you know, the groups like Le Freak that we had come in, and they're not very cheap, to be honest, to get their stage. And I think we rented them a trailer. They needed a trailer as part of their agreement to come one year.
Sure, you add
whatever
at
year
least
that
$5,000 to your band cost for all the other.
All right, could I kind of go over this line item by line item and see maybe what we need to move to Independence Day event? For example, the equipment rental, stage rental, both of those fees could just be moved.
I don't think we have to do that specific, Barbara, not to cut you off, but I think that we just need to ask council to, you know, if we include in our plan what Garrick is suggesting, you know,
Right.
we'd like to do away with the event, but move those activities, you know, like the band and the stage over to
Right.
make the 4th of July. Also, we moved to a bigger area. You know, previously the DJ worked out well because he was in that small fenced area. Now in that huge park, that the band, that's just the greatest idea I've heard today.
And two, we could add more free things for the kids, because that was one of the nicest things about it, is that the parents didn't have to pay for extra stuff for the kids to do.
Good. I mean, is it possible to do away with the Wild West Fest? Just move that, allocate that money over to the.
You can absolutely request
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
we don't have to itemize it out
No,
tonight.
no.
We just-
Right.
And really, it's not 40,000, it's 20,000.
Correct.
So what we're gonna ask is we want to move 20,000 from Wild West Fest to Independence Day. Y'all agree?
I think we just need to be a little bit more conservative because we're asking for more money elsewhere. that we can justify maybe 15,000, you know, and say,
Well, why
because we
don't
had 20,000, for example, but we've already asked for 11,000 somewhere else.
But I
I'm just trying to
disagree,
get council
Sarah.
to be on our
I do
side,
too.
so maybe we say 15,000 and then use the other 5,000 for some of the other areas like Christmas that we asked for.
I
Sarah.
disagree, Sarah. I'm sorry, but I think we need to get at least half of the amount that we're using for Wild West Fest, knowing that we're gonna not
Really
have the
grow
Wild
it.
West Fest anymore, but ask for $20,000 to go to the Independence Day.
Sarah, think of it this way. We have $40,000 here. We're asking for half of it to be moved. We do have 2 other increases of 5,000, so we're still under the 40,000. So our overall
I see what you're
budget,
saying. Yeah, that makes sense.
yeah, our overall budget may actually decrease. Okay? Alrighty. Does that make sense, Katrina? So removing Wild West Fest, move the $20,000 of line items to Independence Day. The next one is Independence Day, so we probably don't need to do anything else to that one unless y'all think we do.
No, just real quick though, doesn't have to be exact, but Trina, do you remember what we paid for Little Creek? Was it 10? Huh?
It was about 10, but they've gone
Yeah,
up.
I'm sure they've gone up, but, so, yeah, okay.
Okay. The next, so we're increasing.
I'm sorry, Barbara, I'm just trying to make notes here. So that changes the Independence Day request to 45,000, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. And then the next account is community outreach, yoga instructor fees, Tai Chi fees, National Night Out. Cindy?
I was looking at the other sheet, and that was what was coming in. So these fees seem like they're gonna cover everything for the next year.
All right.
Although $500 for the National Night Out, do you not need any more than that, Katrina?
You guys only pay for the DJ.
Well, he's gone up. He was 600, wasn't he, for Independence Day?
Look I mean, he's already in for this amount for this coming National Night Out. So it
Okay.
would be for the one after that, which would be in a different budget.
Okay,
I think we're
so we'll worry about it next year.
Okay. Next one is live tree fund. Cost of new trees.
We
that
rarely
for
spend all of
sufficient?
that, so we're good.
Okay. And then the next one is Haslet Hustle.
And there again, this is paying for what we're gonna have this year, correct? We've already got our chip timer and,
We paid 50%.
And it shows that we will,
So we've spent $27.72.
and we expect to spend the rest. But you expect that will cover it?
We still have a few more expenses that'll come out of that we project to be in budget.
Well, 27 times 2 is more than, So
But you're gonna have a new budget by October 1, and we don't pay him till October. That's how we do Christmas every year, the whole
But
event.
eventually, there's not going to be enough to pay half. I mean, it's like if we have $5,000 in there and then you pay the balance of $27.72 out of it, then when we get to the part we need to pay half again, there's not going to be 27 left, and he's likely going to be up.
Don't forget you have a cash balance in this fund. And so at some point, you'll probably ask the council to up their transfer to you, and at some point you may want to dip into your reserve. So you don't have to budget so tightly to stay within I think you should
Fine.
ask for what you really think you need.
Right.
Yes.
Well, to me, it seems like we should increase that.
I mean, as the
Or we
finance
should
director,
ask
I
for
appreciate your
6,000.
frugality, don't get me wrong,
Right.
but I think you should ask for what you think you need.
Yeah,
for your-
I think we should increase it to 6,000.
But the
I'm,
other,
I'm sorry, did I
um,
miss what we're spending the 6,000 on? I guess that's the part I'm not missing. I thought we paid Clarence,
The
you know,
Haslet
less than
Hustle.
1,000.
The Haslet Hustle costs 2,772 times 2. So that's,
Why is it times 2?
because she pays half out of this year's budget and half out of next year's budget. So that's the total cost.
So
So,
he charges us $5,000 to run the race?
Yeah, it sounds like we pay a deposit for half in one budget and then pay the balance in the next budget. Yeah, so it's split over 2 years.
and it's likely to go up. So right now it's basically $5,600. And so we
I guess
have,
I just didn't remember. I thought it was 3,600, not 5,600. That was just my not remembering. Sorry.
okay. So are you okay with us increasing that request to make it 6,000, which would be plus $1,000?
okay, before we do that, I think maybe we should leave this one at 5 and concentrate on getting the $20,000 into our Independence Day fund and not bump anything else up until we get that settled. Because we're not going to need it this year, but we'll know next year that we need to bump that up.
I think we will need it this year out of this budget the next year because
I understand what you're saying, but
there won't be enough left to make the deposit.
okay. Okay.
So we're gonna spend this money.
Right.
Katrina, you have 5,000 this year, right?
Okay.
5,000 next year? So that's 10,000 to get 5,600.
Right now is about $2,300. You're going to spend that before October.
Okay. 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 All right. So we'll leave it. It doesn't matter to me. I'm gonna be gone. All right. So, so what do we look at next? I think we finished the 4. And so what we have is increases. We have a minus $20,000 on Wild West Fest because we're only requesting 20,000. Gonna try to see what all we.
So Barbara, if I may make a motion to recommend to City Council adjustments to our proposed budget, changing Christmas in the Park to 25,000, Easter to 4,000, movie in the park to 1,200, city signs to 20,000, and canceling, should I say transferring Wild West funds to the Independence Day celebration, which would include transferring some of those activities to raise that fund to 45,000.
And eliminate the Wild West Fest line item. If I could add that to your.
That's what I was saying, transfer Wild West Fest to Independence Day for a total of 45,000.
We need a second? Do we need a second? No.
Did I hear you mention the Christmas in the park going up?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't hear that first.
I did, that was the first thing I said, up to 25,000.
Do we need a motion or is it?
Yes,
Okay,
you would
so
need a
she made
motion to
so you-
recommend.
We need a second. Okay.
So are we making a motion to send it, this is ready to send to council, or are you gonna redo this and bring it back next week and we'll look at it and then make the motion?
We're not
You
here
can do
next
that
week.
too, whatever
I
you
mean,
would like. I can redo your
month.
worksheets and
Yeah.
you can see them at your August meeting if you would like.
I mean, are we-
I think we're-
Right.
Yeah.
We were following a faster calendar and then the council decided to change the calendar. So we have more time than we originally
I
thought.
think we could go ahead. He already motioned it.
I second.
All in favor? All agree? So that's the part, so we'll make that recommendation to the council for our Park Board 04 account. So do we need to do anything with the 15?
If even if you don't have any changes, I would appreciate a motion to recommend as presented. But if you want to look at making any changes,
We could do that
you can do
next
that
month.
as well.
Sarah, would you like us to have more discussion about future projects that we might include for next year at our next meeting, or go ahead and go through the Fund 15 tonight as well?
I'm just not seeing Fund 15. I saw 55. I don't know. Is it an attachment on the?
You are correct, Sarah. We handed it out in person. It's not included there.
Oh, okay. So I don't know. I don't have it, so I don't know. Sorry.
The summary.
Whatever you
page,
guys
you see the
decide.
summary page. There's one.
You should have the summary page in your packet, but the detail pages are not in there.
I do think it might be a good idea if we wait until David is back with us next month, perhaps, and because he might provide us some input on where we really need to move forward beginning next year.
Yeah, he may have updated tennis court projections too.
Yeah. All right, so do we need to just say we're going to table or wait till next month for Fund 15 recommendations to
You
council?
can just have it on your agenda next month.
Okay,
And I will go ahead and redo your Fund 50, or your Fund 4 and just have it in your packet for your information. And you would still have an opportunity to make another motion if
Okay.
you decided to
Okay,
change
change
something as
something.
well.
all right, thank you so much for your assistance with that project.
So Cindy was second on the budget.
Garrett, and all approved. All right, number 6, update on tennis court design.
Give me 1 second. Okay, this came from Roman from Belchef and Associates, and this was the latest plan that they had to give to y'all. It should have made it in the packet, but I think that was just missed.
Belcher didn't send it in time.
They sent it to David, and it must have been missed.
Right.
I can scroll through whichever pages of this you want. This is just a rough site layout, it appears. And then I asked him on the time frame of this getting constructed, and he said the bidding process would be a minimum of 45 to 90 days. That's from the time that they finish the final design, that it's sent out to bidding, and realistically, they would be looking at a fall start to even break ground. So basically 4 months from now, give or take, at the best.
Excuse me, James.
yes.
In the picture, I see proposed tennis courts. Above that, I see future pickleball courts.
Yeah, so that was
Is
a
that an
surprise.
overlay?
This is just what he sent. So this is the first time I've seen it, and that was, I'm not sure, really, this is just what was provided. I did see that. I'm not sure if that was something that was discussed or decided, but, and this
It-
is,
Wasn't discussed by us, so.
Right.
What,
What I,
what's your question?
Well, it's got two separate areas. One is for tennis courts and the other is for future pickleball courts, which we have never discussed having pickleball courts by themselves.
right.
There's supposed to be an overlay on the tennis courts so we can use them for
It was-
both
It
purposes.
was always multi-use.
Right.
right, and what he could, it's hard to see here, and I mean, but I can see if it's in the notes, the bottom. It could be that he's showing this because it's too hard to see with lines
top
on
of
it.
Right.
So it may be very well that he is just showing this above it as an overlay on top of that court.
Yeah, I don't think that would fit there. And I just wondered if you might just send him a note that if for our next meeting, if on the proposed tennis courts, he could have a couple options, show us a couple options in their drawings with pickleball lines on the tennis courts.
Okay.
Not two separate courts.
Right.
Yeah.
That might be for the future, but
Well,
not yet.
that would cost a whole lot more than what we're already spending, so.
What I can't tell is it could be that it could be
I
that
don't-
this fits exactly over that. It's hard to tell, but it kind of looks like it would.
I
So to
don't
me, it
know
looks
for
like this is just showing it up above it, but this right here would probably overlay exactly right here. But I can see if he can draw something or clarify that that's the case.
Okay.
The way it sits,
Mhm.
it would not fit on top of those tennis courts.
No,
So-
because of the dimensions.
Right.
I don't remember the exact dimensions of pickleball, but they're like 20 by
22 by 40.
22 by 44, I think.
Could be.
Yeah, I don't remember, but yeah.
Okay, well, we will clarify what
Yeah.
that exactly means because that was.
Yeah.
like-
And maybe a 2-court option and a 4-line court option.
Okay.
Either should work.
So this one does show dimensions. So I don't know if that helps on that or not.
That's tennis. That's only tennis lines.
But this is showing that complete width, so I don't know if that would tell you if
Yeah,
the
that-
entire thing, like the entire surface here would be 108 feet by 120.
Right. Okay.
Does it say if that includes fencing?
Did you ask about fencing?
She did. She
There is-
asked
No,
about
but I was
fencing.
going to ask that question.
There is a fencing plan, in,
Okay.
so that would be the detail for the court fence. And we
Mm.
will send this out to everybody.
Okay.
And any lighting?
That's the next page.
Mm.
So this was included in here, and I'm not sure if it had no other details. This was just included in there, and I assume it has to do with this, or it could have just been.
No, originally it was for the trail lighting.
Well, this at least on the it says community park tennis lighting details.
Hmm.
So they've listed this on here in some capacity. And
Interesting.
There is a photometric plan, but I'm not sure. Like I said, this was just received today without the benefit of somebody who had seen it previously.
Yeah, because usually tennis court lights are really tall like that. What's in the center wouldn't be. And they have to be protected so that a stray crazy ball doesn't break it.
Yeah, those do not look like tennis courts lights.
They don't.
They
look like
don't. Yeah, they look like a part of that trail plan.
They do.
But specifically, somebody put that in there with it,
Okay.
and it says lighting details. So that is the only sheet that deals with that.
Okay. Well, that's
It's good to
something we
know
can.
that they're still working on it.
Yeah.
Let's get it
In
going.
that section here, like these are arm style ones, but.
Yeah.
But that's the only update that was provided to us for
Okay.
you was that it was a 45 to 90 day bidding process at the completion of plans to not to expect at best a fall start, 4 months basically from now to even possibly break ground, and then 4 to 6 months would be the contract terms. So the contractor would have basically up to half a year to complete the construction.
Is it possible that the person or the team that's developing this plan could actually come to our next meeting?
We could ask to have, is Mike Anderson working on this, or? Okay, we could request that they show up to one. Sure.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much for that update. Discuss, consider, and act on expenditures and planning of future projects. Fireworks and Independence Day event. I guess, can we kind of skip over some of these? Okay.
And I have a suggestion. After the fireworks were all over and everybody was clearing out, the tables were wonderful to have them and the chairs, but people left those tables in horrible condition. And I would like to see us come up with a project where we encourage the younger people. I had 3 or 4 10, 11, 12-year-olds that picked up trash bags with me and cleaned off those tables. And I made them very aware of how much I appreciated it. But it also occurred to me, if we could have like a junior marshal park, something, a badge or something that we could give the kids and start getting them interested in taking care of their park, because that's what it is. It's all of ours park. And, get a group of them, because obviously we had one volunteer and he didn't show up. So, and some of the volunteers, most of them work with their churches, and that's fine. But I would like to see us kind of aim at the middle school kids.
Well, or even have one of the churches maybe help us by taking that on as their youth project, and then we could order them when we're ordering the prizes that get thrown out. Have some things set aside specifically for the helpers, the cleanup helpers.
Right. Some way of awarding them
That's a
for their
great idea.
participation and thanking them for. Do we have any of those stickers still left from I Love My Parks? Just have a little bag maybe that we could give them to. But I would like to have some kind of make it look official. You're an official litter something. Not just
Keep
picker
your
upper.
Haslet Park beautiful.
Yeah, that's okay.
Mhm.
But
And how did the new event go with the foam?
the kids that I saw were enjoying the heck out of it. It looked like a messy yuck to me, but I didn't have any children that were in there. So
Well, it looked more like a pool, whereas the ones that we had actually looked at were more shooting out that they ran through.
and I like the idea that this was more confined.
Okay.
Yeah.
Had that, yeah. Great.
I think,
They seem to have a good time with it though.
yeah. I think, I don't know how you do this, but and maybe if the event gets bigger, we definitely need some more food trucks. The lines were, I'm sure those vendors were happy. I don't know if you get any feedback, but I mean, the line for several of them was ridiculously long. Yes. So, if we could get.
Well, I wonder if we make that effort to have a food truck service once a month, like we discussed last month, that will maybe build, and I don't mind working on that to try to get some different food trucks here once a month, and maybe other vendors will come back for that, for our events.
Well, and I think too at Wild West Fest we had a lot more vendors. And when they find out that we're not going to have Wild West Fest, but have this event and make it bigger, it'll probably get a lot more interest too. One,
You're not gonna have a lot more concrete space for trucks. Some of them, you know, they can drive in the grass like we're going to allow them to, but I was surprised how many people opt for the $100 option to stay on concrete. Or, you know, less work for them to have to pull those things into the park.
well, and at some point, we may want to wrap that around the corner and use where we had the handicap parking
Right.
and not have any of the individual vendors quite so close to them so that that's open for people to come from the park into their area. One thing I was informed of, we allowed a couple of extra vendors in late. They were doing the light up things, and one of the vendors that had been there, set up, been there all evening, was very upset because they were selling the same thing that she was selling.
Yep.
So it was kind of a competition. Now, I
Yep.
did tell her that they did pay to come in. They didn't just wander in, and Sarah did her job and made sure that everybody paid to come in. But and I don't know that there was ever any guarantee that there would not be a conflict of interest at some point. But if that's
We do not guarantee exclusivity.
okay, and I
We
did
asked
not
what
know
you're
that.
selling,
So
but we had 4 snow cone vendors there in close proximity, and I did check with them, and everybody was pretty happy with it. You know, 1 or 2 said, yeah, I was kind of concerned that there were that many, but it turned out fine.
I would just like to also comment on the fireworks themselves because they are amazing. And going to paying a little bit extra and getting the high show, you know, I wasn't able to come back up to the park, but I love being able to watch the show from my backyard.
And that is an item that I would probably expect to increase in expense. I heard a lot about the fireworks come from overseas and shipping and whatever. So
It was amazing.
I expect that they went up a little bit from last time to this one, and I expect that to increase. We won't know until.
Well, I know I had somebody say, well, why do y'all have it on Friday? And I said, because we're a small community and we get a better price. That's what I said. It's the truth.
well, and we don't have to compete with the big people
That's
on
right.
on the
That's right. We can,
fourth. Yeah,
yeah, but it was awesome.
everybody all of the people that I talked to really enjoyed it. Really did.
I had a lot of positive feedback and a lot of emails, and they all want to know when our next event is.
All right.
You guys saw the email I sent out a couple of days ago. That was kind of in response to a lot of the questions we're getting.
Okay, awesome. On the right track there. Movie in the Park, September 16th, 2022. Is there anything else we need to do for that?
There is not at this time. Everything's great, and our sponsor is very excited.
Yay.
And did we pick a movie?
Yes, we did last time. The
Yeah, I thought
movie
so.
is Encanto. And we are getting ice pop. So the next item is National Night Out, October 4th, 2022. Anything there, Katrina?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
You're already good on that one.
Haslet
far.
Hustle, sounds like we are okay on that for October 29th.
I do have an item for the
Okay.
Haslet Festival. If you might remember that last year, one of our lessons learned on the 5K race was signage and where our path kind of overlays when it's the 1 mile and y'all remember the 5K part where, so these are, I was looking on the race site. These are decals that would go on the sidewalk that we could possibly purchase. Don't have very good pricing yet. These say $8 per square foot, so I don't know how many we would need.
My only concern is on concrete. Our experience with the pickleball lines that we put on the basketball court didn't even stick for a day. And with people running over them, they might be there for the first person, but I'm not sure they would stay stuck.
And it's
Okay,
just a
well-
matter of follow him or her.
Yeah, this, okay, I'm just gonna read this.
Okay.
I don't,
Go ahead.
I just wanted to say, as the person that ran ahead directs traffic, I don't know that details on the ground necessary. I think that if we just had a sign, like a post, that says go this way in a couple of places, and maybe I could just go in and chalk it out on the ground, I think that that would be fine. It's having, like she said, person lead through.
True, and we probably need a couple of volunteers more than we had on the route. We could also do talk and spray talk and things like
Okay,
that.
yeah, that might be better.
But I wanted to, these are designed for event graphics, and they are designed to be on concrete and be removed from concrete. So I think they would work. They're used in other races.
So were the pickleball lines that made me cry that they didn't last 24 hours.
I can't really.
Maybe we can add that.
They were
increase the
designed
budget.
for concrete. That's why I'm not very trusting. Okay, so it's not anything we need to do action, but we'll need to order signs or paint or
Or some.
something.
And
Okay.
yes,
So we'll do that at our next meeting, maybe, talk
Sure.
about how to do that.
absolutely.
Okay, Christmas in the park. Can we come back to that at our next meeting?
Except,
We probably want, let me look real fast. I've got the list right here. There was one or two things that. Oh, the snow. No, we need to go ahead and reserve and confirm if we want real snow. We usually have done that by this time of the year, and
Okay.
we have not done that yet. So, let me just find my a quote from the snow company to do the same thing as last year.
and do we already have a train for Christmas?
No, y'all tabled that.
Good.
Somewhere in the stack.
Yes, we are. Kids love it. We do two areas for snow, just for your information, and they build it up and make it like a snow slide, and the kids just love it.
They would get wet and then go, ooh, and well, what do you think snow's gonna do, kids? It was hilarious.
And so we have an under 6 area and then an area where they can go wild.
Yeah.
Is this like for a couple hours?
Here, we have some pictures.
Weather permitting.
To melt.
Well, remember last year it was like 82 degrees.
It was
We kept
83 that
we
day.
kept that snow slide going the whole time.
But it went from about 6370 last year for the same amount. No hill and all that. 70. So we need to go on there for this. That's what y'all want to do because they book up and there's nowhere else that you can get that exact, product.
Do we still have the funds available?
Yes, have not.
Do we need a motion for the $7,600?
That's what you guys would like to do because we don't have a reservation with them yet, and we
Okay.
usually do that by this time of year.
Okay.
This is Cindy. I'd like to make a motion that we allow $7,600 for the snow event for our Christmas in the park.
Second.
All in favor?
Who was the second? Okay, got it.
And do y'all
With
want to
emerg-
discuss the train?
Real quick question, so we're gonna make reservations for the snow then?
Right.
Mhm.
And who does that?
Katrina.
Yeah.
Awesome, thank you.
So we got the rock climbing thing and the foam thing from one particular person, and he was telling us about a train that they have that would be comparable in price, and the other one I think had gone up that we had before. So I would like to contact them about a train for this year's Christmas.
I already have, and it is roughly, I'll have to get an exact quote, and you guys can make that motion next time. It's about $900, roughly the same.
But from the sounds of what he told us, it would be really, really neat for
Well,
us.
and I almost switched the train that we had for this event, but because I had not worked with that vendor before, and this one I had, like, let's just, they didn't have the foam thing up and ready till like 6:15. I was a little disappointed with that, but it went really well, so that was fine. But it kind of made
And they did help with overseeing it as well.
staff.
They had enough people that they could leave people at the rock climbing thing and still had one or
because they
two
told
over
us
that
they
one.
wouldn't staff the front part,
Right.
but they actually did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Sarah, if you'll make a note that next month we're gonna look at the train situation for Christmas in the park.
We have time for that.
That's,
I'm just afraid if we don't make a motion, that won't be available when we need it.
You can.
well,
It's-
can we make a motion and then approve the amount next time since we don't have the exact amount? Okay,
Yeah, just do 1,000. It was
Okay.
9 something.
I'd like to make a motion that we go up to $1,000 for the train for Christmas in the Park.
From
From
Magic Party.
Magic Party?
Same.
Okay.
Party Magic.
Party Magic, and I'll second Barbara.
Do we have a picture of that? I'm just curious.
Not with me. I do.
Did it look decent?
The way he described it, Sarah, it's amazing. It's almost like the
Oh, I
polar.
heard him describe it. I'm
Yeah.
just wondering if it's really what
Yeah.
he described.
Let me look at
Right.
it.
All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. All approved.
Inflatable Party Magic. You'll put the website. They do have pictures.
And do we, while he's pulling that up, I think those were the two items for the Christmas in the park, right?
Yes, those are the biggest ones. I did
Okay.
the snow. I was kind of like, we
Yeah.
need that. Yes. You got the, yeah, they have a search bar and
Oh, here it is. Oh, look at that's cute. Oh, yes.
Sarah, can you see that?
Sarah, can you see the picture of the train that he's showing us?
I'm sorry, there was a delay on my mic. I
Okay.
was saying yes, I'm also trying to look it up on the computer here.
Yeah.
But is that the Christmas one? This looks...
It looks very nice.
I think that is it, but he led us to believe that they kind of decorate it for Christmas too, so I think it'll look even spiffier than that.
Cool. All right, that looks great.
Yes, on the website it says there's a Polar Express
Okay.
edition.
I believe it's 950.
Okay.
And then I would like to throw this back out there on the snow item. We spent another $350 on hay bale. So that'll be that.
All right.
But I'll get an exact quote. I'll get a quote on that and make sure.
Okay,
we can-
and we can do that next time.
Right.
So next time we'll do, for Christmas in the park, we'll do the snow bales and anything else that we need to take care of. Easter egg hunt,
Nothing.
okay. Wild West Fest, we're gonna, we're done. Memorial Day celebration, that can wait, can't it? Yoga, anything on yoga?
I will tell you that we've had two seniors chair yoga sessions, and it's being received very well, and they're great people to work with.
And I can speak to it as a participant and our lovely leader, and it is being very well received. And it's the group that comes on Tuesdays and Thursdays to play cards, And that's a really great service that Cindy is doing, and we're just kind of, as a volunteer that receives nice tips. So we appreciate that very, very much. Tai Chi, anything? It's good. Under other projects ideas, do we want to talk about food trucks here or under community park?
Can we go back to Christmas for just 1 second?
Yes,
I'm sorry, I was a
ma'am.
little unorganized after the budget stuff, but you guys had tabled at the last meeting, or just, I'm sorry, just paused the face painting for Christmas, $1,000, and she is still holding on it. She has it
Yes.
penciled in.
So I did my due diligence and I got about 4 different estimates, just so everyone knows they're exactly the same.
Okay.
Cost wise, there's no one's cheaper,
Yeah,
just so
I
we
had
know.
checked at least one other one too.
Well, and I think it was a good idea to do face painting in the winter and not in the summer. And so, do we want to go ahead and accept her bid then?
If you guys want to make that motion, that'll be great. I just wanted to remind you that we skipped it at the last meeting and said we would revisit it.
And how much is it?
$1,000 for
Okay.
2 artists for the duration of the event.
Okay, this is Barbara Long. I move that we fund at $1,000 to Christmas in the Park face painters for December 3rd, 2022.
TNT Entertainment.
TNT Entertainment.
And I'll second that.
Thank you. All those in favor, thank you.
Thank you.
All approved.
Okay, now you can go back to 7K.
7K, so food trucks. Now that our our Independence Day event is over, I had contacted it's the lobster truck that was on that TV show that funds.
Lobster.
Yeah. Anyway, they were very interested and they sent several dates, but they were for this month and it wasn't possible with the short staff and big event happening to figure out which of those dates we could accept. And so the question is, I'm happy to contact them again to get some dates for the upcoming months.
Okay, so here's how I think that needs to go is they just need to go to our permit page on our website, or they can call the permit department, however they would like to do it, and apply for the permits required. That's all we're asking them, and then we will allow them. So normally how it would go, like the snow cone truck down here, they need to get permission from the property owner to be there and have the proper permit. So they will need to get the proper permits, and that includes providing their Tarrant County Health and their food handling and blah, blah. And then we'll go with the date.
Okay. Then
So
dates.
if you do contact them, why don't you see if you can get a couple of months date, knowing that that can change if they get more people,
Right.
more things done. But then
Because
that
the
way,
only exception we're making is to allow them to park in the park. Otherwise, they could, ask to do that if they were, a mobile vendor.
Well, what will be required of us, though, I believe, is to advertise.
Right. Sure.
Otherwise, it will fail if
Right.
nobody knows they're here.
Right.
So, and so could that be it? When I speak with them, we can advertise on our Facebook page,
Right. We could create an
Pages.
event, and
and then we can also, could it be included in the water bill?
you give me enough time. The water bill newsletter goes out about 15 days before the first of the month. I have to have it there even earlier.
Okay.
So it's way back track. So
Okay.
that's the reason that if we could get even September dates from them now, then we could work with that
Okay.
and get that set up. Because you'd have to have it in by about the 10th of August for September.
Okay.
correct.
All right, and I might find out I know Sendera Ranch has regular trucks out there, so I might find out who organizes that and see if I can learn something from them.
Sure.
So, okay.
So I have an idea or thought. Since you ladies seem to be interested in pickleball or tennis, so since the courts are going to be available, assuming next year sometimes, are we going to have a celebration and kind of a open event or any
Like
kind
a
of planned,
Grand opening. of
like a
that?
grand opening or kind of a planned tournament to attract people to participate?
Gosh,
Well,
if
with
we
two
only knew,
courts, it'll be hard to have a tournament, but we can have some open play and drills.
Correct.
We could invite some people to run some drills so that kids can get out on the courts.
Or even an instructor to come out and teach people how
Yeah,
to
yeah,
play
yeah.
pickleball. I've never played pickleball. I've played tennis.
Oh, I can talk to you about
So-
that after our
so-
meeting. I can talk to you about
Just to
that.
get people into
Yeah.
using the courts.
and
Yeah.
the hard part about it is we don't know when it will be
Yeah,
finished or
no, I
right.
understand
But
that.
it would be really neat to do something like, maybe we can unveil it for Independence Day next year.
Right. Right.
We can only hope.
But the tennis court, you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
We would have a tennis.
I actually, sir, that would be great, even if this food truck thing goes off, to have food trucks come out and the instructor, like you're saying, to
Yes.
introduce
Yeah.
people to the
Yeah.
sport, and get people in the park, even if they don't want to play pickleball. I think that would be great. I think
Yeah, I
that's
think
cool.
that
Yes,
would
I'm
be fun.
sure we'll have a grand opening and a ribbon cutting we have for everything we've done.
Well, Cindy and I could do it for pickleball. We could do an introductory lesson for kids and adults, an introductory. Then we can refer you to somebody who can really teach you, and we can have some tennis demos. I know lots of tennis players, so we can work on that once that gets closer.
Yeah, I think we're a little ways from planning
Yeah.
it, but of course we should.
But it's a great idea. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I want to do the ribbon cutting. I'm so excited. I've been working on this for years. Okay. Our next, any update on Nancefield, or sorry.
Sarah, I have your other item. Sarah had an idea she
Oh.
wanted to share.
Okay.
For future projects?
I forgot what it was.
7K. Okay, I'm probably gonna pass this around, but it was to have a collection or start with one or two items that the library would have on hand,
Oh,
and then
yes.
they could be checked out. And this was an
Okay,
idea
so-
she saw at the Benbrook Library.
Yeah.
So I'll just pass
Yeah.
this down, and you guys can give it back.
So I went down to the Benbrook Library recently, and I had some wood burned to make a tic-tac-toe board. And in their library, they basically have a shelf where people can check things out, like pickleball kits, and with a racket and a net, and you can check out basketballs, or they have really fancy things like cricket machines. Anyways, I called Barbara at the library, and she said that is actually something that they're working on. To have available in the future, so that if, as a Parks Board, we wanted to sponsor a few of those items, we could. So I sent Katrina a couple of proposals just for the cost of some basic kits of things that I thought would be applicable to Parks Board, provision.
So is that something for future projects? Or something we need to discuss and decide on
Yes.
tonight?
Oh, no, it's a future idea. We can discuss it tonight if you guys like the idea. If you want to wait and think about it and think of some other ideas, we can put it forward. The library is merging to a new system, a new, what's it called, like the interlibrary loan system consortium. And so that'll take effect, I think, in August. So once all that transfers over, we actually will have access to some of the stuff from Benbrook. And so I think that's, more plausible for when it would be able to be started. They're redoing the library, Barbara said, and some other things. So, but definitely something that was interesting.
And I think it would have to be an agenda item for us to take any action on it anyway, so.
Well, looking at these pictures, I can say I love all of them. I think supporting the disc golf and the horseshoes is wonderful. What is this? Yoga, that's a great possibility. The only thing I will say is the wooden paddles for pickleball, those are the worst paddles ever. So we don't want those, but it's a good idea. We'll find a better set. Once
So-
you play with a paddle, even one step up from this, you would never play with a wooden paddle again.
So,
Well, and some of it is just to get people involved in the
Yeah.
park activities. It's only available when the library's open. So you could check out the yoga mat the night before the yoga class if you don't want to make the full investment into yoga to see what yoga's like.
Right.
So now I've got the mat and the bricks or whatever comes with that. You know, I want to try frisbee golf, but I don't want to go and spend all the money. I'm going to check this out from the library and just play for fun with my friends. So
It's like checking a book out then.
Yes, and see, you know, because you wouldn't want to buy a whole bunch and then have it not used. Well, and once we see how the tennis court, pickleball courts are going to be designed, I mean, if we have one, the kind of net that can be adjusted, and I don't need my net anymore, I will donate it to the library. You know, so that's gonna, and I have a good one, so you know, that's possibilities for down the road.
I think it's a great idea.
Great idea, Sarah.
We also need to, like I mentioned before, just be aware that at some point in the next few years, we're going to replace that other playground. So keep that in mind as well.
Yeah. So why don't we talk about the other playground at the next meeting, and also these kits for the library as an agenda item? That might be a good time to use some of our end of year, our funds.
I thought David said we still had another year left on that park, but maybe the year's already over.
Okay.
Sorry, this is off again.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
David gives us all the updates on the
So
Nance
do-
and Firehouse and Gamble. So
So do we want to just put our city
James
park?
said he could do it.
Oh,
Do you want updates on those?
if you have some updates for us, we're happy to hear them.
Is there anything we need to
We're
know
ready.
about?
Okay. So Mansfield still has basically some graffiti that won't be able to be removed, but we're also looking at using some of the R&M money to get the concession stand repainted, and hopefully we can just repaint over the stuff that was there. So a small amount there. They're also working on some repairs to the irrigation system. It has been working, and it's very, very brown and needs to be much greener. So we are working on that. Same goes for Firehouse Fields. With some of we're gonna try on the drive going down there temporarily to help mitigate dust. We're gonna be trying to use called a prime coat. It will look just like basically tar. It's like an oil-based coating that's put down before you pave, but they also use it as a dust control method. So it was actually supposed to be done last week, but we're using it with the county with an ILA with them. So they're going to be putting a coat down hopefully early next week, and we'll just see. It may not last very long, but we'll just have to see if that is a viable option until that is paved. As far as for Gamble Park, we did get the children's swings, and we went ahead and we got a matching set of green ones. So we just replaced the black ones with all green. So there's 2 new green regular swings. There's 1 green child seat, and the other ADA one has not arrived. It ships directly from the manufacturer, so we've been given no update, but that's the last one that was requested. Community
The
Park.
other ones are already up, James.
What did you ask? I didn't hear that.
The new ones have already been replaced.
So, with the exception of the one ADA, the one that has the restraint, that one has just not arrived. It's shipped directly from the manufacturer and has not, but the other children's swing is in there and up.
We need to
Thank
make
you.
sure that Matt knows that happened.
Yeah, I believe David was supposed to have sent him something. If he hasn't, I'll remind him. But I know that's what he had requested, and like I said, we would have the other one up if it will ever arrive. Also, I missed it on Gamble Park. The new fencing around the new part was damaged. I don't know if it was deliberate or accidental, but it looked like most likely kids were hanging on the top rail and putting their feet against the fabric, and they broke all the ties. So it is put back up there, but there's now a pretty significant wave. We're going to see if that can be repaired, and if not, we may need to look at using some funds from R&M to reskin that. Sometimes they just get a wave in them that you can't take back.
Is there a warranty?
There is not, and that would be for damage anyway. So
Okay.
Nothing failed that was supposed to. It was just used in a way that wasn't. And then, so Community Park, far as that, again, we're working on irrigation systems. Some of those have just gone by the wayside for a while, and we're trying to get those back up, keep trees watered and things like that. And then I have nothing for the Veterans Memorial.
Well, I'll just say on the Veterans Memorial, that new ground covering that we use seems to be a lot better than the rocks that were there before. Future agenda items, the next park board meeting will be August 10th, 2022. Is there anything else we need under future agenda items?
So on the last minutes, there was an expected action item for the HSA contract revision, but it didn't carry forward. So can we add that again?
No, that was pulled off the agenda. It's not an agreement between the park board and HSA. It's an agreement between the city and the HSA. And I was told that there are thoughts to amend that contract, but it's not time yet.
But that
And
was,
so it doesn't matter what we suggest. I thought we had an action item to suggest the revision of that so that they understood our support was there. Not that we could do anything about the actual, agreement. Is that not true?
that's what she's saying, but you did send that out to us. And so we can review that, and under under community park, when we talk about that next time, maybe we can just discuss. Nancefield, I'm so sorry. At Nancefield, we could talk about that, and if we have a recommendation to council, maybe we can make that using that route.
At this point, it's
No?
a staff priority list, and it's not at the top.
Okay,
But I've been told that the mayor is working on it.
okay. And so when we see the mayor, we can just each say that we are hoping that that will move forward with some changes. I guess is how we can handle that. Sorry. All right, anything else?
I'd like to just officially announce my frustration with the fact that the Parks Board can't make suggestions on parks activities, and that's all I'll say.
I agree. All right, so with that, we have our next meeting, August 10th. We're adjourning at 8:59.